man to fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The Justice Department is considering its next move this morning after a federal judge ordered it to turn over secret grand jury testimony from Robert Mueller's Russia investigation to the House this coming week. The ruling is being seen as a victory for Democrats and potential new fuel for the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Ben Tracy is at the White House with the latest. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. This is a big deal for Democrats because in this ruling, the judge says that their impeachment inquiry is lawful, and that severely undercuts the arguments of the White House and the president, who have been calling this illegitimate, a sham, and a witch hunt.
We're being destroyed and humiliated.
At a historically black college in South Carolina Friday, President Trump compared the way minorities experience the criminal justice system with his own impeachment inquiry.
And I have my own experience. You know that. You see what's going on with the witch hunt. It's a terrible thing that's going on in our country. No crimes there. It's an investigation in search of a crime.
That investigation is moving quickly. Democrats on Friday issued 3 more subpoenas for administration officials to testify before Congress, including the acting director of the White House Budget Office. And CBS News has learned that attorneys for former National Security Advisor John Bolton are consulting with lawmakers about cooperating.
That's good. So guess what, everybody? Guess what? Happy Friday, you bastards. But guess what? Turns out Bill Barr is a liar. Well, who saw that coming? Everybody saw that coming. Obviously, there's a judge. He was a W-appointed judge, a George W. Bush appointee to the federal court, same court that Amy Berman Jackson, who just sentenced Roger Stone to 3 years, sits on. Okay, same court, same courthouse. And this particular judge, appointed by George W. Bush, is saying, I'll read you, exactly what he said. Quote, in this court's view, Attorney General Barr's representation that the Mueller report would be subject only to those redactions required by law or compelling law enforcement, national security, or personal privacy interests cannot be credited without the court's independent verification in light of Attorney General Barr's conduct and misleading public statements about the findings in the Mueller report. So Mr. Reggie Walton just ruled that he's going to conduct an independent review of the Mueller report, and then he's going to rule on whether or not BuzzFeed, and a group called EPIC, which is the Electronic Privacy Information Center, who sued to get the unredacted, which most people don't even realize we don't even have, the unredacted Mueller report. He's going to review it in camera, meaning in his office, to see if Barr is, hiding the sausage. Because he said that he saw discrepancies between what Barr said in public and the Mueller findings and the thing that was in the report. But it's still partially redacted. He's also considering whether or not to release the grand jury testimony, which we've never heard or seen either from all of those witnesses that testified in front of the grand jury. And that would include, guess who? Guess who, everybody? Guess. Here's a blast from the past. Don McGahn, former White House counsel, who cooperated with the Mueller investigation and is now claiming he doesn't have to testify in front of Congress. And Bolton is now considering cooperating with the House. So, I'm looking at this opinion. Let me just read you a couple of quotes from it because this is hair-raising, okay? It's just so amazing to me. You understand that this is like stage 4 Trumpism, okay? That's where we are. Stage 4 Trumpism. So the people that are suffering with stage 4 Trumpism, there is no cure. I'm sorry. There just isn't. But here's what he wrote. He wrote, the inconsistencies between Attorney General Barr's statements made at a time when the public did not have access to even the redacted version of the Mueller report to assess the veracity of the statements, and portions of the redacted version of the Mueller report that conflict with those statements cause the court to seriously question whether Attorney General Barr made a calculated attempt to influence public discourse about the Mueller report in favor of President Trump, despite findings in the redacted version of the Mueller report to the contrary. And then he goes on and he adds this: the speed by which Attorney General Barr released to the public the summary of the special counsel's principal conclusions, coupled with the fact that Attorney General Barr failed to provide a thorough representation of the findings set forth in the Mueller report, causes the court to question whether Attorney General Barr's intent was to create a one-sided narrative about the Mueller report, a narrative that is clearly, substantively at odds with the redacted version of the Mueller report. And then he says he doesn't know if the Department of Justice itself can be trusted. Can you believe this? Quote, the court has grave concerns about the objectivity of the process that preceded the public release of the redacted version of the Mueller report and its impacts on the department's subsequent justifications that its redactions of the Mueller report. Wait, I forgot. My mother. It's my mother. I had to leave my phone on. Sorry, I'll turn it off. The court has grave concerns about the objectivity of the process that preceded the public release of the redacted version of the Mueller report and its impacts on the department's subsequent justifications that its redactions of the Mueller report were authorized under FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. These circumstances generally, and Attorney General Barr's lack of candor specifically, call into question Attorney General Barr's credibility. I mean, this is a 23-page opinion. And I just read you, the conclusions, okay? There's an analysis of why the judge appointed by Reggie Walton, has said that, the AG is lying to the American people. The AG has had the intent of, this is a crime, the intent of lying. So my question is, why does Bill Barr still have membership in the bar? Why don't they strip him of his law license? This is just so. And Attorney General Barr's lack of candor specifically call into question Attorney General Barr's credibility. Here's the translation, everybody, in plain old Brooklyn English. He's a freaking liar. And he had the intent to lie. He had the intent to lie. I just cannot, I just for the life of me don't know how this man is not impeached. I don't know how this man is still a member of the bar. I told you the New York City Bar Association was looking into Bill Barr's law license, but to really, really take his law license away, you would have to go to the state, the New York State Bar. And people need to start doing that. People who are members of the bar, you need to file complaints with the New York State Bar. You need to file complaints with the DC Bar. Although I know one of the former DC Bar heads, and this guy was I won't say how I know him, because then maybe some people in the know could conclude who I'm talking about, and I don't want that to happen. But one of the formers was just evil, I'll just say. Just seriously, but here is we are in fourth stage republicanism. We're in fourth stage Trumpism, where the unitary executive theory of American democracy and the Democratic Republic of America is in serious question because of lunatics like Bill Barr, who had the intent to lie to the American people, did lie to the American people, told you things that ran completely contrary to what was in the Mueller report, and that the court now wants to see if any of the redactions, or all of the redactions, or some of the redactions that were made by Bill Barr had anything to do with national security, or were simply about helping Donald Trump hide the crime.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
You've seen federal judges go after prosecutors in a case, right? They'll say the prosecutors should have turned this over, they should have turned that over, there was some misleading comments here by the prosecutors. The fact that the judge is going after the Attorney General himself and using words like serious doubt, grave concerns, quotes someone talking about it being spin. And that's what this lawsuit is about, by the way. This isn't like a random issue. Right. This lawsuit is about whether the unredacted portions of the Mueller report should be released. And the judge is in essence saying, I don't trust the Attorney General, so I'm going to have to look at it myself. That is a stunning rebuke I think it's fair to say very few, if any of us, have ever seen anything like it before.
Yeah, this was part of a legal argument. It wasn't like he called into a cable show, radio show to talk about the Attorney General. He was making a legal case against the Attorney General.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's making a legal case against the Attorney General of the United States and accusing him of being Trump's personal lawyer and a lying lawyer and a spinner of truth and a non-credible human being who is tasked with, reporting to the American people what was in that Mueller report and getting out ahead of it 3 weeks early so that he could plant seeds of falsehoods into the American, propaganda machine ahead of the release of the Mueller report, which was 448 pages long, and nary a person read it. You have people in Congress who still have never read the Mueller report, and we've never seen the unredacted version of it, nor have we seen, the grand jury testimony, which we are under FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, allowed to see, because the American people have a right to know what the hell their government is doing. And that's what this lawsuit is. This lawsuit was brought by Jason Leopold and BuzzFeed and this group called EPIC, the Electronic Privacy Information Center. And the judge is like, oh my God, guess what? Your Attorney General is not credible. He is a liar. He had the intent to lie, and he did lie. And now I have to read 448 pages of the unredacted Mueller report to decide whether or not the redactions were even an honest effort, or if the redactions were made to protect the one guy, Donald Trump, who Bill Barr does not represent. Bill Barr represents the American people in his capacity as Attorney General of the United States.
After nearly 2 years of investigation, thousands of subpoenas, hundreds of warrants, and witness interviews, the special counsel confirmed that the Russian government sponsored efforts to illegally interfere with the 2016 presidential election, but did not find that the Trump campaign or other Americans colluded in those efforts.
We also know that, obviously, from the various examples shown in this report, that there were different ways in which the Trump campaign knew about what the Russians were doing and really believed that they were going to benefit from what the Russians were doing to try to interfere with the election. I'll read you a part of that also in the report. It says, quote, although the investigation established that the Russian government perceived that it would benefit from a Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome, and that the campaign expected that it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in the election interference activities.
The Deputy Attorney General and I concluded that the evidence developed by the special counsel is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense.
The special counsel team said, quote, the evidence we obtained about the president's actions and intent presents difficult issues that prevent us from conclusively determining that no criminal conduct occurred. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him.
The picture that emerges here is really one of the president's aides and advisors and officials trying to protect him from his worst instincts. And this is what the special counsel says on this issue. The president's efforts to influence the investigation were mostly unsuccessful, but that is largely because the persons who surrounded the president declined to carry out orders or accede to his request.
Special counsel Mueller did not indicate that his purpose was to leave the decision to Congress.
What?
I hope that was not his view, since we don't convene grand juries and conduct criminal investigations for that purpose. He did not. I didn't talk to him directly about the fact that we were making the decision, but I am told that his reaction to that was that it was my prerogative as Attorney General to make that decision.
There's a sentence here. The conclusion that Congress may apply the obstruction law to the president's corrupt exercise of the powers of office accords with our constitutional system of checks and balances and the principle that no person is above the law. That is, I don't think any other way to read that is saying, I, Robert Mueller, cannot enforce the obstruction of justice laws against the president because I am not empowered to do so under Department of Justice policy. But this is an invitation to Congress to say you can do it using the impeachment power.
The White House fully cooperated with the special counsel's investigation, providing unfettered access to campaign and White House documents, directing senior aides to testify freely, and asserting no privilege claims.
In this report, the special counsel said it found Trump's written answers to the team, quote, inadequate. And here's what it goes on to say. It says the special counsel agreed to receive written responses from Trump, but it, quote, viewed the written answers to be inadequate. We noted, among other things, that the president stated on more than 30 occasions that he, quote, does not recall or, quote, remember or have an independent recollection of information called for by the questions. Other answers were incomplete or imprecise, the report says.
Yeah, and also when Mueller was questioned that day in I guess it was July 24th, when Mueller was questioned that day by oh my God, I can't place her right now, Val Demings, a congresswoman from Florida. When Val Demings asked Robert Mueller whether or not the written questions that Trump submitted were generally dishonest, he said yes, generally. So Donald Trump lied under oath in the written questions. He said he didn't recall 30 different times. He prohibited almost everyone from testifying that he could, and that's what Mueller found. And Bill Barr is lying about all of it, and Judge Reggie Walton actually concluded yesterday that he has created an environment that has caused a significant part of the public to be concerned about the Attorney General's transparency. He also said, I just think it's a banana republic when we go down that road and we have those types of statements being made that are conceivably, even if not influencing the ultimate decision. I think there are a lot of people on the outside who perceive that there is undue, inappropriate pressure being brought to bear. I think as a government and a society, we're going to pay a price at some point for this. I mean, he just says, you know, that that Robert Mueller also in this conclusion, he says, Robert Mueller even objected to Bill Barr's characterization of Mueller's report because it's not what was in the Mueller report, what Bill Barr said. He's a freaking liar.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
The courts are not helping us, I have to be honest with you. It's ridiculous. Somebody said I should not criticize judges. Okay, I'll criticize judges. We need quick justice, and we need strong justice. Much quicker and much stronger than we have right now. Because what we have right now is a joke, and it's a laughingstock. It's really sad when every single case filed against us is in the Ninth Circuit. We lose, and then we do fine in the Supreme Court. But what does that tell you about our court system? Well, it was a political decision made by a judge. I think it's a disgrace. I think it's a disgrace when people every case gets filed in the Ninth Circuit because they know that's not law. This was an Obama judge. And I'll tell you what, it's not going to happen like this anymore. It's totally the wrong decision by, obviously, an Obama-appointed judge. I just don't know how they can not recuse themselves for anything having to do with Trump or Trump-related. Justice Ginsburg, during my campaign, you know, I protested at the time. She apologized in a very minor form. And what Justice Sotomayor said yesterday was really highly inappropriate.
You know, the man is a freaking piece of crap, and the courts are still, he's got these unqualified judges in the pipeline. Well, it's not a pipeline, it's a sewer line. You know, and Mitch McConnell is rubber stamping all these unqualified judges. I mean, you saw Kavanaugh. You will reap the whirlwind for decades to come because you pointed out that I was a serious problem in college and I raped women over and over and over by feeding them lewds and climbing on top. So, I mean, you know, Donald Trump is literally trying to put Trump loyalists on the court through this sewer line that is the Senate of the United States of America. And I hope you take this very seriously come the next election. I know a lot of people will talk about the Supreme Court, as they should, but don't forget about the district courts and the appeals courts. Don't forget about, the fact that we have an attorney general of the United States who is being ruled as being a liar, not credible. You can't trust him. He's calculated. He is a spinner of facts. He is somebody who will lie for the president. He doesn't represent the American people. He represents one client and one client only, and that is not his client. He represents the president of the United States in these matters to influence public discourse about the Mueller report in favor of President Trump, despite certain findings in the redacted version of the Mueller report to the contrary. We're in serious trouble here. You know, you want to talk about, fixing the justice system. You want to talk about a racist justice system for those who can't afford to pay, right? You got to look at the other side, too, where you have all the power in the world and you not only pervert the entire justice system by filing crazy emergency filings over and over again, and you are browbeating judges in public, and you are saying if this guy is of Mexican descent or if this guy is an Obama appointee, he can't be trusted. He can't be trusted. Just shredding the credibility of the existing judiciary. But he's also putting in loyalists who are not doing their jobs representing us. Because the president has all the power, he's decided he's going to represent the president as the Attorney General of the United States. You know, we haven't had this kind of disruption or perversion of the FBI, of the justice system, of the Justice Department since Herbert Hoover. I mean, this is so amazing. What this judge wrote about Attorney General Barr's credibility, it just shatters it. He shatters it. He says that Bill Barr's intention was to create a one-sided narrative that favored Donald Trump. I mean, bizarro world. This is just so heinous. I can't even tell you. And now we have this pandemic, and it really is a pandemic. We've had the over 100,000 cases worldwide of coronavirus report, and the president continues to lie. He told you last week there were 15 cases. They were all getting better. Everything was good. He could have a vaccine in just a couple of months. You know, he's lying. He's lying like President Xi Jinping in China. They're promoting conspiracy theories. They're saying it was on purpose. I mean, go to work. Don't worry about it. It's nothing here. It's the flu. It's a common cold. I mean, this is so unbelievable that every single thing that this president says and does has to be for his own personal benefit. There's not a shred of concern for the American people, not a shred of concern for health, not a shred of concern for honesty or a justice system that is sort of kind of trying to be blind. No. Everything's got to be for him. I mean, this is so unbelievable. And the way he trashes judges and the way that they jumped on Chuck Schumer and played him out of context yesterday. And then Trump went on Hannity and started trashing Chuck Schumer for saying, something about, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, undoing a woman's right to choose what her body should be doing and when. Is going back to the freaking 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 40-something years ago. I mean, it's unbelievable. So Chuck Schumer got on the floor and he said, I shouldn't have used the words I used, but I am angry. But I just want you to know that it has been so distorted, and that Mitch McConnell got on the Senate floor and he distorted the context. I was talking about a woman's right to choose that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh are trying to undo after 40 years of it being settled law. And I was telling them that the whirlwind would be angry, angry women who would show up at the ballot box, get rid of the Republican majority that is shoving all of these people through this sewer line that they call a pipeline, and that these justices just might be impeachable for defying settled precedent and lying under oath about their intentions.
To the women of America, what we're talking about here, what I am fighting for here, is your right to choose. An issue, of course, Leader McConnell completely ignored in his speech. I feel so passionately about this issue, and I feel so deeply the anger of women all across America about Senate Republicans in the courts working hand in glove to take down Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
I just read about a woman in Shreveport who, under the Louisiana law, now before the Supreme Court, would have to travel over 300 miles to exercise her constitutional freedoms. And this is happening in states across the country. Republican state legislatures are restricting a woman's right to choose so severely as to make it non-existent. And the courts are now likely to go along because Senate Republicans have confirmed nominees they believe will strip away a women's rights and fundamentally change this country.
Seriously, it would fundamentally change America if women had to go back to, Handmaid's Tale times. You know what I mean? How many households are two people working households? This is insanity.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
So yes, I am angry. The women of America are angry. And yes, we will continue to fight for a woman's right to choose. I will continue to fight for the women of America. Now, I should not have used the words I used yesterday. They didn't come out the way I intended to. My point was that there would be political consequences, political consequences for President Trump and Senate Republicans if the Supreme Court, with the newly confirmed justices, stripped away a woman's right to choose. Of course, I didn't intend to suggest anything other than political and public opinion consequences for the Supreme Court, and it is a gross distortion to imply otherwise. I'm from Brooklyn.
Me too.
We speak in strong language.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have used the words I did, but in no way was I making a threat. I never would do such a thing. And Leader McConnell knows that. And Republicans who are busy manufacturing outrage over these comments know that too.
Yes, I think we all understood that the clip that they showed of Chuck Schumer saying reap the whirlwind, which was the exact same words that Kavanaugh used at his confirmation hearing, you will reap the whirlwind for decades to come, that Chuck Schumer, when you played the whole thing, was telling the Supreme Court that women would march, that women would come, that women would vote in numbers that would threaten the majority in the Senate, and that these judges would be politically held accountable. That is what he was saying in context. And when I played the long clip of him saying what he said, it was in context. And then I showed you the short, out of context, clipped version, which sounded like he was inciting some sort of violent anarchy or, some sort of an invasion of the Supreme Court and some physical confrontation, which is just bullcrap. So there you have Donald Trump criticizing judges who he disagrees with, okay? And he has no law degree at all. You've got Donald Trump trashing judges because of who appointed them. You have Donald Trump trashing Amy Berman Jackson because she sentenced Roger Stone in 3 years because Roger Stone was the intermediary between Russia and their ill-gotten gains, and they sent it to WikiLeaks, and WikiLeaks' release of those stolen emails, those stolen documents from the DNC. He did do that, and that is in the unredacted Mueller report, and that is why Roger Stone was put on trial, that the Roger Stone jury heard the unredacted portions of the Mueller report, which we've never seen, and that in less than 7 hours convicted him of 7 felonies. Something is, I mean, this guy is rigging every single solitary part of our government to be unresponsive to the needs of this country, whether it's justice, whether it's public health, whether it's, his crimes, impeachment, obstruction of justice, him, obstructing witnesses or tampering with witnesses, dangling pardons, his son cashing in on these empowerment zones, his family making money in China by getting It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I just want you to know that going into the general election, if Biden should be the nominee, they're going to dirty him up so bad. Already Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, has said that he's going to start, calling witnesses in the Burisma Biden issue, on that issue. He's calling it a crime or whatever. I mean, it's so unbearable how in the tank these people are. It's fourth stage Trumpism. It is a disease in and of itself. But they're going to do this. They're going to dirty up Joe Biden so hard, so bad. They're going to have, it'll be just like the Hillary Clinton campaign. It'll be the same thing. Innuendo and lies and propaganda being circulated on the Twitter and the Facebooks and the whole. And we're going to have to sit here and go, no, she's not a pedophile. No, she's not running a pedophilia ring out of the Comet ping pong parlor and pizza place in D.C. No, she's not dying. No, she's not sick. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is going to be the same campaign. I just want you to know that. I just want you to know that part of it. Bernie, on the other hand, if he gets the nomination, he's going to be, Adolf Hitler himself. He's going to be Stalin. He's going to be Mao. He's going to be, Castro. He's going to be, Mussolini. Seriously. Richard in New York.
Hi, Randy. Thank you for taking my call.
Hey.
You have an extremely interesting program today, right? But I wasn't able to get through when you were talking about health care. And I just wanted to make one comment about Bernie's Medicare for All. Medicare is a name in a program that's already taken, and there's a name for it. And when us old geezers get together and talk over coffee, one of the things that comes up is, wait a minute, Medicare for All. Bernie's talking about no premiums, no deductibles, no nothing, and we got Medicare. And as a retired couple over 65, we pay over $10,000 a year in premiums between Medicare and a Part B Medigap plan to cover medical expenses. Plus drugs. If you happen to take drugs, you got copays on those too. And that's not what Bernie refers to as Medicare for All, I don't think. I'd like to hear your comments on that.
Well, you have to read his bill. Section 201 talks about comprehensive benefits, and it says, in general, subject to the other provisions of this title, individuals enrolled for benefits under this act are entitled to have payment made by the Secretary to an eligible provider for the following items and services if medically necessary or appropriate for the maintenance of health or for the diagnostic treatment or rehabilitation of a health condition. And then he's got a list of all the benefits. And part of them are the things you don't have right now, like hearing aids, like dental benefits, like prescription drug benefits, So it does eliminate premiums. His plan does by forcing you not to have Part D or a supplemental.
Well, I understand that, but he calls it Medicare, and Medicare that's a name that's already taken.
Yeah,
And,
I understand, but his plan is different from what you have right now. It expands it, and it makes it comprehensive. It makes it so that it covers prescriptions. It makes it so that it covers eyeglasses. It makes it so that it covers hearing aids, which for the life of me, I cannot understand why the hearing aid manufacturers or the hearing aid, the audiologists of this country haven't lobbied to get those things covered. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I totally agree. Well, I know. I think I understand what he's proposing, but my point is that calling it Medicare for all. A lot of people have Medicare now, and it's not premium free. You know, there's $140-some amount deduction from your Social Security check. And then Medicare only covers 80% of your part of your.
No, I know. My mom's got Medicare, and I control all her finances, and so I know that I have to pay. It's roughly for us is about $3,500 a year for the supplemental. So yeah, I mean, but it doesn't cover her eyeglasses, and it certainly didn't cover her hearing aids, which we had to pay for out of pocket. Her prescriptions, yes, she needs a Part D. They prescribed a drug for her just recently. They wanted to take her off a cheap drug and put her on something new because they thought it had a benefit that she didn't get from the cheap drug built into this combination thing. And I went to pick it up, and it was $500, and I couldn't pick it up.
I know. I listen to you all the time, and I don't complain about my $10,000 a year premiums that I pay for.
No, I get that you're arguing semantics with him, but you should look at his plan. I mean, it's an actual bill. It's an actual existing, living, breathing thing. So you could look at it, and when you get together with your old geezers over coffee, you can say to them, well, this does eliminate our need for Medicare Part D, the prescription drug benefit, and Medicare Advantage would go away, which is a complete ripoff. And, it would be something that is self-contained and includes things that we still have to pay out of pocket for. So, you could look at it.
Manic. You're absolutely right, because when people hear Medicare.
Yeah, now right now I'm watching corporate media, right? And what's on there? United Healthcare, for a free guide for a Medicare supplement from United Healthcare. That goes away.
What I got was a supplement. But
yeah, you don't need it anymore.
It's the definition of the word, and the fact that Medicare.
Again, we're going in circles because you want to talk about the semantics, and I don't. I want to talk about the plan, what's in it, and you won't need a supplement under Bernie's Medicare for All. Now, how do we pay for it? That's a whole other conversation, and of course, he's proposed tax increases to pay for it. Tax increases on you. But does it save you money? Do the math.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Joe said that Medicare for all would cost over $30 trillion. That's right, Joe. Status quo over 10 years will be $50 trillion. Every study done shows that Medicare for all is the most cost-effective approach to providing health care to every man, woman, and child in this country. I, who wrote the damn bill, if I may say so, intend to eliminate all out-of-pocket expenses, all deductibles, all co-payments. Nobody in America will pay more than $200 a year for prescription drugs because we're going to stand up to the greed and corruption and price fixing of the pharmaceutical industry. We need a health care system that guarantees health care to all people, as every other major country does, not a system which provides $100 billion a year in profit for the drug companies and the insurance companies. and to tell you how absurd the system is tonight on ABC. The healthcare industry will be advertising, telling you how bad Medicare for all is because they want to protect their profits. That is absurd.
So that's his pitch. That's and he did write the bill, and I told you you could read the bill, and it actually has the end of any copayment, any what it's called in the bill is cost sharing, and it eliminates cost sharing between you and a hospital, you and the pharmacist, you and the insurance companies. It eliminates it. Now, whether or not it could work, I don't know. Because people start dabbling with it. If Bernie Sanders, let's say, is president for a year and we get a Senate and a House that is willing to try something, and we get to test it out and we get to see what it costs for real, and we get to see whether or not we can negotiate with Big Pharma to get our costs down on prescription drugs, because we do pay 10 times more than any other country for prescription drugs, which is absurd. But the reason why is because we don't negotiate on behalf of the current existing Medicare system. We're not allowed to use the awesome power of numbers to negotiate with Big Pharma the price that we pay for prescription drugs. And so we are overpaying for prescription drugs by an order of 10 in this country. And that right there, just savings on that, could actually make a huge difference, not just in the lives of ordinary people who are trying to get prescriptions filled after 65, but it could also destroy the Part D scam that insurance companies are selling you, so that you start to believe that you could afford any prescription your doctor writes, which is not true either. So do I know if it'll work? I don't know. What can I tell you about it? Well, the British medical journal, The Lancet, did look at Bernie's plan, and so did 22 other recent studies. And they have shown 23 studies, The Lancet being the most medically acceptable medical publication to doctors and hospitals. They've all concluded that moving to a single-payer healthcare system costs less than our current dysfunctional healthcare system. So you have that. Otherwise, we've never deployed such a plan, and it's hard to say how it would feel or look or what it would really cost. But does it save lives? It saves 68,000 lives a year. That's number one. Number two, would it bring down costs? Well, we know that providing primary care to uninsured people, which we've already done by expanding Medicaid, we've saved $78.2 billion for providing primary care to uninsured people. We've avoided $70 billion from hospitalizations that were avoided, and $7.8 billion by saving us on emergency visits simply by providing primary care access to uninsured people in this country. So, you can see savings in providing health care. You can see that. How is it going to play out? How's it going to? It depends on what they vote for. It depends on the details in the actual bill. Now, Bernie's bill, is there, and you can read it, and it does end cost sharing. So this previous caller who, was just repeating himself that we shouldn't call it Medicare at all, because Medicare currently does have cost sharing in it. I get your point, because it does. You're not wrong about that. But this is called Medicare for All, which is a different system. Just so you can be clear. All right, Jeff in Connecticut.
Hello, Randy. How you doing?
I'm good.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to disagree with you on everything you just said, and please don't take this personally.
I won't.
But I have read studies from the AMA and the Congressional Budget Office and everything else that said if we were to institute all of Senator Sanders' plans, now don't get me wrong, I love Senator Sanders. He can't be bought, and he says what he means, and I admire that. But if we were to institute his plans, 50 cents of every tax dollar, every dollar we make would go to the federal government. And and at the end of everything else, he doesn't pay for everything. He would blow the deficit through the roof 3 times what Trump has. He would bankrupt the country.
So where are you getting these numbers?
like I said, I've read reports from
Well,
from
I need for you to show them to me because I've never seen anything like that.
Okay, well,
what I've seen though are plans that say that middle class people would have to pay 4% more in taxes, but that the savings would be, for somebody like me, I would save about $30,000 a year, and I would be
read the New York Times,
and I would be willing to pay 4% more in taxes to save $26,000 a year.
Well,
But then again, you have to remember that people who pay into the system, FICA, right? People who pay that tax, okay, that tax stops after, I forget what the current number is, like $160,000 a year. Okay, that tax stops. So what you have are people who make less than $160,000 a year paying out of every single paycheck they will get this year FICA taxes. But people who make $1 million a year or more, okay, just for just a round number, their FICA taxes stop after their very first paycheck of the year. Then every paycheck that they get after that does not take out FICA taxes. So yeah, they would have to pay over their whole income. And then when you look at things like the wealth tax that Bernie's, proposing, you see guys like, I don't know, Bill Gates. He's supposedly, depending on the stock market on any given day, around $107 billion. So Bill Gates's tax would go up by $6 billion a year if we did the wealth tax that Bernie or Elizabeth Warren have proposed. So there's a lot of money to be raised out there, and I've never seen anything that said we would have to pay 50% of every dollar. I've never seen anything.
Do I get to talk now?
If you cite a source, yeah.
Yeah, New York Times,
okay.
the Journal of the American Medical Association, the Congressional Budget Office. Now, and also one other thing.
Is it an opinion piece?
I am... okay, one other thing, please.
Is it an opinion piece?
It was written in the New York Times. It was by I can't remember the
author,
reporters who wrote it, but also I am a professional firefighter.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into my record, but I don't really want to give up my gold-plated medical plan that covers everything. I have never paid a red cent in medical bills for anything because my plan covers everything.
I appreciate what you're saying, but the truth is that we have millions of people in this country who are uninsured, and when you have a pandemic like this, that's a bad plan.
Well, that's a whole. When we're not talking about the coronavirus here, that's a totally different issue.
It isn't, because uninsured people still have to, I just told you a story: $996 to go to urgent care.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Let us be clear what Medicare for All does. It ends all premiums. It ends all copayments. It ends the absurdity of deductibles. It ends out-of-pocket expenses. It takes on the pharmaceutical industry, which in some cases charges us 10 times more for the same prescription drugs sold abroad as sold here. What we will do through a Medicare for All single-payer program is substantially lower the cost of health care for employers and workers, because we end the $100 billion a year that the healthcare industry makes and the $500 billion a year we spend in the administrative nightmare of dealing with thousands of separate insurance plans. Healthcare is a human right. Every other major country on earth is guaranteeing healthcare for all. The time is long overdue for us to do the same.
So he has never, ever changed his proposal. He's adamant about it, and he's serious about it. He wrote the damn bill, as he said. And the amounts of money that we pay for administrative costs in our healthcare system, $500 billion, seriously, because you know that your doctor or your hospital is taking maybe Cigna, maybe United, maybe Blue Cross Blue Shield, maybe, some Cal plan, whatever. And they have to process all of the bills through various different insurance, for-profit insurance carriers. And, you know, that would end. And we also know that if we could negotiate the price of prescription drugs by using the enormous numbers that 350 million people in one system would represent, that we could take down the cost of prescription drugs. So there's at least two places that make nothing but sense that you would see cost reductions, right? Nothing but sense that makes. Now, that guy from Connecticut, the firefighter, he's got a gold-plated plan, he thinks, and he doesn't think he's ever going to have to pay a nickel out of his pocket, or hasn't paid a nickel out of his pocket. And, you know, that's great. I'm glad for you. I'm happy for you. That's government health insurance. It's what congressmen have. It's what senators have. It's what presidents have. But it ain't what Americans have. And when you have Americans who are sick and contagious in any way, shape, or form, or you have Americans that are showing up in an emergency room because they don't have access to primary care, the cost of that alone is about $78 billion a year. And if you think that your gold-plated health insurance policy is going to keep you from catching an undetected person's communicable disease, you're mistaken, because your gold-plated plan is going to keep you from contracting something that a person who goes naked, meaning with no health care, is carrying around if they, should touch something you touched and then you touch your face, or they, somehow, hugged you. Hello, I don't know. It's not going to protect you from communicable diseases that go on to undiagnosed, because a person doesn't have $996 to go to an urgent care and ask them to take a chest x-ray to see if they have this communicable novel coronavirus. Okay, not everybody's going to do it. Yes, my child did it because she's a generous person and she gives a damn about her grandma who is in a medically fragile condition. But I don't know a lot of people that would do that and put it on their credit card. They just don't. So it's a bad system that we have, obviously. This plan of his covers things that you don't even, think about right now. Maybe you don't. Mental health specialists, dentists, ophthalmologists, optometrists. It covers everything. And yes, it's going to be an increase of about 4% in everybody's taxes, but it also relies on people who are very, very wealthy who stop paying into the system at about $160,000. Now they're going to have to pay in over all of their fortune. Oh, billionaire tears. Here we go. I'm crying. I think what he was quoting, by the way, was Grover Norquist. I don't think that was ever in the New York Times. I don't think he ever saw anything like that in the New York Times. I think what he's quoting is Grover Norquist, who never saw a tax on the wealthy that he agreed with, ever. They should be untouched by the IRS. Multi-billion-dollar corporations should never pay a tax, ever. Amazon should never pay a tax, ever. 91 companies, 91 of the top, the most profitable companies in this country pay no tax. No tax. Jahari in Michigan.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
Hi.
Hi. Sorry I had to take you off speakerphone.
Thank you.
But you kind of, I guess Scotty gave you my note about Grover Norquist because I was calling to talk about that very thing.
So is that his? Is that his?
Yeah, I believe it is. That is where people are getting this 50% tax thing from.
Where did you see it? Do you know?
I got into an argument with a guy on Facebook, and I actually looked it up, and there was an article on Americans for Tax Reform, and they seem to allege that he does advocate for a 50% tax, but it really, I've seen a meme of it on Facebook as well. So that's going around, that's making the rounds on social media. And I'm seeing a lot of anti-Biden memes as well. And this insanity's got to stop. I mean, it's down to, Warren was my candidate, and I'm a little heartbroken about it because I really, really loved her.
I'm crushed. I am literally crushed. She obviously was my first choice, and I try and stay neutral. But yeah, people said they could tell, but honestly, she was my first choice She's brilliant. She had a plan. She had an organization. She had, she just had the intellect. She had the demeanor. She had the goodwill with other senators. She
was genuine. She was
never.
genuine.
It's not that. It's just she is a seriously accomplished, intelligent planner. She would make a fabulous president. Fabulous.
Yeah, I called her Batgirl. I mean, she always had a plan for
Amazing.
everything. But I mean, this stuff has got to stop. I keep seeing these memes and these posts and tweets going back and forth between, Bernie's people and Biden people, and it's got to stop. I mean, this stuff is for cheap chuckles, okay? Look at what we've lost, okay?
Yeah.
This is us now. The rule of law is destroyed. The separation of powers is openly violated. The courts are stacked and infected with these right-wing ideologues. White supremacists are openly committing domestic terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
Immigrants and babies are in cages.
Yeah.
I mean, healthcare is on the verge of being completely wiped away.
Yeah, and last night, Donald Trump had a town hall, and he actually said entitlements were next, that he was cutting Social Security, Medicare, food stamp, all of it. He said, and he's been saying it. He's been saying it like, he'd look at it. He was going to look at it. He was going to go after entitlement. He's been saying it, and he said it again last night. So be very, very, aware that Donald Trump wants to take Medicare away.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
I walked through my headquarters today, and I saw all those strong, powerful women. I saw all those women who said, thank you for standing up to Michael Bloomberg. I saw all those women who said, thank you for being smart and making that okay. Thank you for talking over men sometimes, because I'm just damn tired of always having it go the other way. It's one of the hardest parts about this. All those pinky promises, all those little girls, we're going to do this. It's just going to be a little longer before we're able to have a woman in the White House. But it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen soon. It just, look, here's how I see this. You get in this fight, when you go into it, there were multiple people who just said, this will be part of the problem. But you get in the fight because you just got to keep beating at it until you finally break the thing.
That was her last night with Rachel. It was a really fabulous interview, I have to say, because being smart and a woman sometimes is, let's just say some people find it unattractive. She made smart look good. She made that look good. And I am so grateful to her. It's very, very rarely that I find a mind that I'm in awe of, that I actually sit there and I'm in awe of the logical, pragmatic attack on a problem, and that there are so few people in this world, in this whole world, who look at problems and wouldn't dare come at that problem without a possible, doesn't have to be perfect, but without a possible solution. Most people like to complain about this or that, but have no clue what a solution might entail or could look like or may require effort or, on their part. So I am so sad for this country, because she would have been the best president we have had since probably Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who relied, by the way, on another very strong, smart woman, his wife, Eleanor. And I just really valued her. I valued her logic, I valued her fight, I valued her energy, I valued the fact that she had solutions for almost any problem that you could imagine. She had a way of solving it. It might not have been the perfect way, but she would take a partial win and then move towards getting the rest of it done. There's something about her that was so exciting and appealing and promising, and she was an exciting person. I don't know exactly why she did so poorly, and I admit she did very poorly, and there was no room for her to stay in this race. There just wasn't after Super Tuesday, but I was shocked by it. I wasn't even offended. I told you that yesterday. I'm not even offended. I'm just shocked that America and the white men in this country made her their fourth choice. I couldn't believe it. I'm shocked. I'm shocked by the population of this country. I think there were a lot of people who just thought what happened to Hillary would happen to her because all women are the same. I don't know. But she was definitely my first choice. No question about it. John in Washington.
Hi, Randy. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren, she was my first choice, too. And, for some reason, black people just thought, it's nostalgia for Obama, and that's why they went for Biden. But, what you were talking about earlier. No, I think
it's more than that, to just make every black person like they would make every woman the same. I think that's an insult, okay? I know you didn't mean it that way. I get it. But here's what happened, okay? What happened is older African Americans seriously are so terrified of this man that we have now that they made a very pragmatic decision in the South. Mostly older African Americans made a decision in southern states that things were so bad that they wanted something that felt comfortable. They didn't fall in love because they were afraid to fall in love. They instead found somebody they could hold hands with and walk with. And they were pragmatic about it. It's not that it was nostalgia for this or that. It's that Joe Biden has been around in their lives for a long time, and they felt that he was like a comfortable shoe. They were scared of a woman having the same fate as Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. There was a lot that they thought about. Now, I remember talking to one of my favorite people, that ever calls in, Rhonda in Erie, Pennsylvania, who's a professor, who's a black woman. And she told me early on, that people were being very, very careful about not picking something different because they were scared, and they were going to go with Biden because he was known. He was a known quantity.
Yeah, and I agree completely, and didn't want to go into a diatribe that you could.
No, I know. I could hear it.
My real reason for calling is I'm north of the quarantine zone that's ever growing up I-5, and I was in a bank today, and this guy, he was like an elderly guy, late 60s, and he coughs over his shoulder, and a couple people were like, "Hey, cough in your elbow." Yeah. And, things are changing. I won't go to any public gathering, and people that do keep going to church, keep going to sporting events. This virus is going to find a way with a 20-day non-symptomatic incubation time, 24 hours. A particulate, from your water vapor.
I think just to get the right information, I believe the incubation period is about 5 days, and then 14 days is the outside edge. So 2 weeks.
Well, I don't want to spread any false information, so I'm glad you have the right stuff. But one thing, now you can check this too. King 5, which is the NBC affiliate in Seattle, they have a reporter out there at the elder care place, and this one woman was talking about her mother. It's the one where her mother passed away, and then they called her hours later saying, "Oh no, your mom's fine," but the nurse, because they're so busy and everything. But she's another woman died there, and she was in the same room with a coughing patient, and she's like, and they told her, "Well, your mom passed away from natural causes," and she's like, "Well, aren't you going to test her body for the coronavirus. And either they don't have enough test kits,
right,
or they just don't want to know what the number, like you keep saying.
Well, it's the same thought.
This.
That's the same thought. Not having enough test kits and not wanting to know are part of the same thought. That's why there aren't enough test kits.
Terrifying.
Yeah, they don't want to know. Listen, in the homework today, RandyRhodes.com, there's a whole article about why China is, suppressing information too, because they don't want anybody to know. They just don't want anybody to know.
Hopefully the problem will just go away. It seems to me
that the country that is handling this the best, believe it or not, is South Korea. South freaking Korea.
Show. To speak with Randy, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, this is Dr. Anthony Fauci, and he is the go-to guy for me when it comes to coronavirus or COVID-19. Okay, he is a world-renowned expert in allergies and, communicable diseases.
The confusion is that about 10 to 30% of the common colds that you and I and everyone else get during a season happen to be a coronavirus. But a certain subset of coronaviruses can cause extremely serious disease. They did it with SARS, they did it with MERS, and now they're doing it here with the novel coronavirus. The reason it's serious is that a question that was asked by Dr. Harris is that the mortality of this is multiple times what seasonal flu is. So seasonal flu spreads widely. The mortality is 0.1%. Right now in China, the mortality for this particular infection is, the latest report was 3 to 4%.
Wow.
It might be a little bit less. It isn't a cold. It's very interesting that most of the common colds have upper respiratory infections. This virus, not to get too technical, the component of the virus that binds to a receptor in the body to allow it to infect, those receptors are rich in the lung. That's the problem. It binds to it. So a person can present no sneezing, no sinusitis, fever, shortness of breath. You do a chest x-ray and you have pulmonary infiltrates. That's not the common cold.
So this is the deal with the common cold and coronavirus. They're part of the same family of viruses. But this one, the common cold, as he said, is affecting the upper respiratory system. Your nose, your coughing, your sneezing. This particular virus finds its way into your system by embedding in receptors or transmitting in the receptors in your lungs. And the death rate for the flu, I mean, Donald Trump's an idiot, so let's just say that. He's saying, I didn't know, all these 100,000 people, 79,000 people died of. This is exponentially more deadly than the flu. Exponentially more deadly than the flu. Having health insurance isn't going to protect you from getting this. Just want to tell my firefighter that. Steve in Arizona.
Hey, good afternoon, Randy. If this coronavirus, if there was ever a call for Medicare for all, this is it. And I want to speak to that selfish firefighter with his gold-plated plan. Good for him and all that. But what I want him to know is he has a firefighting job, and this job is paid for by our taxes. And so thus, he's got a socialist job, and we're the ones paying for his great plan. And frankly, you disgust me, buddy. You know?
Oh, no. You don't have to go that far, but you're right. He is part of socialism. People get the benefit of his hard work regardless of their ability to pay. That's socialism.
Yeah, well, he doesn't want Medicare for all because he's got his good job. He could possibly lose his job, then he wouldn't have his good plan. And if that comes to play, he's gonna wish he had Medicare for all. But let me tell you something else here. We live in a 55-plus community here in Arizona, and we've got a lot of Canadians here with second homes. These are just average Canadians. So their taxes ain't killing them because they got Medicare for all up there. And I've spoken to about 40 of them over the last 10 years or so, and they all really like their plan. There's no problem with it. One day I was speaking to a young gal. She was 30 years old, and she was an oncologist nurse. She was down here visiting her grandparents. Okay. And I asked her about the system. I wanted to see what her take was. And she says, well, you know, if you need a knee replacement or something like that, it might take about 6 months to get it, you know. And it would take a while here in the United States. She says, but if you're diagnosed with cancer on Tuesday, you'll be in for chemo on Thursday. And that's right from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, because they triage it. And, you know, I have news for you. Here in the United States, for instance, Howard was told he needed, further back surgery. So that he waited about 3 weeks to see this orthopedist, who was the person he chose to see. So he had to wait 3 weeks to get on that guy's schedule. And then he saw him this week. The guy recommended surgery and said, I'll see you in June.
There you go.
Okay, so it's just the beginning of March, April, May. Why do people think that here in the United States, if somebody diagnoses you as needing surgery for knee replacement, hip replacement, back surgery, scoliosis, stenosis, whatever it is, bulging discs, herniated discs, no, you're still going to wait. You're going to be in pain for 3 to 4 months. No matter. So what is this? Oh, well, I could go anywhere I want, and I could have my. They're lying to themselves. It's just not true.
No, you can't, and it's why they're telling us. It's the corporate media and the corporate insurance companies and the corporate pharmacies, the pharmaceutical and drug makers. They're the ones pushing this meme, and they think we're stupid, but we're not really so stupid. But anyways, thanks, Randy, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too, Aaron in California. Aaron?
Hey, Randy.
Hi, Aaron.
Oh, hi. You know, I missed the beginning of the show, but is Jessica okay?
Yeah, she's okay. Why?
Okay. No, because I think you were talking about testing, and I know she was really sick,
no,
so.
she had some bug, and because she's staying with me and my mom is there.
And your mom, right.
Yeah, so she went and she tried to get a coronavirus test, and of course there isn't one to be had, but they did give her a chest x-ray, and they told her, she's got a bug, but it's not coronavirus. She's just, right, yeah.
Okay, good. So thank you for doing your job while you're handling a sick household, because I know how hard that is.
Oh, my God. You have no idea.
I know. It's hard.
Oh.
I just wanted to tell you. So I'm in California. I'm in the Warren slump. I'm just heartbroken. And it's not just that she was the most qualified, the most prepared, the most intelligent, thinker up there, and in a really dynamic and creative
The
thinker.
most energetic, organized.
Energetic, kind. I mean, all the values, the first instincts that she had they're just democratic values, small d democratic. And so I think it's just, again, as a woman, it's just that you can do all your homework and be better and brighter than everyone else and not succeed at the highest levels. It's heartbreaking. And I think the other thing that really hammered it for me is she spoke truth to power. And I'll tell you what I mean. She called out Mike Pence in that interview for his lack of experience handling a health crisis in his state. That's a big deal. And she called out people like Bloomberg for why he would be a bad candidate against Trump.
I got news for you. All Bloomberg is doing is staffing it out, just like we said he was. I mean, I was joking.
Right, but he would have been terrible general candidate. Not transparent, not good with women, stop and frisk. I mean, she really just nailed him, and he hasn't gotten a lot of pushback by people because he's a billionaire, and no one wants to hurt the billionaire's feelings or say the truth. But my question to you is, I really like the idea of a Biden-Warren ticket because, and I hope she does keep her powder dry and not endorse anytime soon, because I think she's a power broker at this point, like Obama. But I just think we need her voice, and we need someone who can power. And you picked up on this too. I'm sick of Joe Biden talking about healing this country. I want accountability. We have lawbreakers. We have to build up our democratic institutions, and that means cleaning house and taking back control. And she's the one that would have done that.
Well, last night, Howard's family's here, and I really I love them. They're great people, and so we all went out to dinner. And his brother-in-law's a doctor, so I got to talk to him about a lot of different things, and And they're all sitting there, believing the corporate media about there's only one that could do it, and and it's these are really intelligent people, and the corporate media is pounding. And meanwhile, I know that in a debate between Donald Trump and, let's say, Joe Biden's Iraq war vote is going to come up. Joe Biden's, endorsement of the crime bill is going to come up. Joe Biden's bankruptcy bill is going to come up. So we need more debates is what we need. And they were asking me like who I was for, and I kept saying, why doesn't Elizabeth Warren endorse? Right. And I kept saying to them, I hope she doesn't. I hope she doesn't.
I don't want her to.
I don't want her to either. I don't want her to either. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah. I mean, we're all smart people and we can disagree. We can agree to disagree. It doesn't get hostile or anything like that. I mean, they're great people. But this corporate media is pounding an idea to protect themselves. And I want more debates. And we will have them on the 15th. Have a great weekend. Save me some White Claw.